Hey everybody, this is Sully coming at you today. I know some of you have had trouble with the Diatone GTR 349 and Betaflight 4.0. 4.1 I haven't tried yet because it's still an RC candidate, but I have tried Emuflight. And holy cow, it's a totally different beast. So I'm going to walk you through my settings with the 349 that is fairly well tuned, got a little bit of prop wash, so it can be improved a bit, but for the way it flies, I don't think I'm going to push it any farther because it is freaking awesome. And there is a new version of Emuflight coming out soon enough, but this is the one that's available. It's a beta version, so use at your own risk. Going to head over to GitHub, Emuflight configurator releases. All links will be down below, by the way. So you're going to just pick your version. I use the Chrome OS, though Win32 or I don't know which one you Apple users use. Y'all are weird, so I don't know which one it is for Apple. But I do know, oh yeah, Win32 is mine and Chrome OS. Now I do use Chrome OS because it's awesome. And if you want to know how to set that up, I had a video earlier. It's not that difficult. You just download, drag, drop, and load it into Chrome so that you can use it as an app. Pops right up. It's cool, just like the Betaflight version, so not a big deal. Anyway, we are plugging in our GTR 349. This is the HD Mark II version, by the way, that if you flashed Betaflight 4.0, you probably had a couple runaway problems. So, by the way, before you flash anything, ever, before you do it, I always recommend you go through your Betaflight settings and look through each screen to copy out. You always want to make a backup, which is here. Let's see. So whenever you plug in Betaflight, I know it's a video of a video, but you're going to do a backup. Save that out, and you're going to go to CLI and type in diff all. You know these things, by the way, and you're going to save that out someplace where you know where it is so that you can find it. And then I always run through a screenshot of each, so I do a screen record of all my settings, so if stuff goes majorly bad, I can revert, because you always want a backup plan. So do not forget that. Always have a backup plan. Anyway, Diatone 349. It's very simple. Whenever you plug in a Betaflight quad in Emuflight, you're going to come to bootloader. Just type in BL for bootload. It's going to give you DFU mode. And you're going to pop over to firmware flasher. And mine is actually Fury F4 OSD. That is what is the on the Diatone GTR 349 and the ER 349. It's a Fury 4 OSD. So you just load it up, hit flash, wait for it to finish, and then, by the way, a tip for Emuflight, it's set up just like Betaflight. So if you click the gears in the upper top, permanently enable expert, show updates, reopen last tab, and advanced CLI are what I always use. Dark theme I think is always done, but it's not a big deal. Now, here's a funny thing. My quad is not moving yet. My image is. Now, what's that tell me? That tells me I need to calibrate my accelerometer. So if that ever happens to you, find a flat surface. Holy cow. And mine's on a flat surface, and you can tell it is not flat, so we're going to calibrate that thing. And why is that important? Because sometimes your gyro gets out of calibration. So always do that. Your accelerometer, yeah. Anyway, now it's much better. Yay. My house has some vibrations. Oh, it's my computer fan. That's what's wrong. I'm like, why does it keep moving? So, anyway, that's always a good first step. Now, if you notice, it's a Fury 4 OSD, Emuflight 0.1.0. This is beta, by the way, so it's beta. That's all I got to say. Ports, my UART1 is my serial, and my UART3 is IRC Tramp, and that's the only way I can get it. It's not TBS Smart Audio, it's IRC Tramp. That's the only way Smart Audio works. You're going to save and reboot. Pop into configuration. I am running props in. If you reverse direction, run props out. Do not forget to hit this button. There's a very, very special caveat in a second we're going to get to. If you happen to not hit this button, you will have a runaway. So we will enable runaway takeoff protection, but that's later on. Right now, I use D-Shot 600. 5 is my idle speed, idle throttle. I don't have to change any of the sensor alignments. They're good. No accelerometer trim. I do 8K, 4K, and let's maximize this. If you notice, my CPU load is only 8%, so I could easily do 8K, 8K, but I've found that 4K just runs better. Don't ask me why. Accelerometer I have on, just in case. Actually, there's a funny thing in a little bit in my flight that I'll show you where accelerometer on is something you want. And it's very funny. So arming, RSSI. If you want your RSSI signal to show an OSD, you can turn this on. It's analog through the ADC. Not a big deal. Make sure you have serial bus if you're using serial. I don't know anyone who uses PPM anymore. And yeah, don't think anyone uses the other ones anymore. I'm using iBus, so not a big deal there. Don't use 3D. And for these, all I turn on is air mode, OSD, anti-grav, and dynamic filters. I don't really use any of these others. If you have a different flight controller, for some reason I don't know why, you're just using a different flight controller. Soft serial and telemetry may be something you have. Telemetry if you have a better receiver. I'm using the cheapest thing I can find, I'll be honest. Beacon tones, you do have these. It only seems to change the pitch to me, so whatever. RX loss, that's in case you lose your signal, and RX set, that's because I have a signal, my knob is set to trigger my beacons because I do not have a buzzer on here. I don't want to place one. And I leave all of these on, never a problem. Save and reboot. Power battery, 270 is going to be your amperage meter calibration. And I always run my batteries down to 3.4 or 3.3 for minimum cell. That will normally allow me to land, and my batteries recover back to 3.7, 3.8. And I've used them for over a year and a half now, hundreds of times, and they're still going strong. I still get about 5 minutes on 850 pack, or 750 pack, whatever. I get between 4 and 5 minutes, and I have some really good times. So anyway, that's what works for me. Your mileage may vary. 3.5 is always a safe warning cell, and 3.4 to land. Those are safe. For the most part, your mileage may vary. Depends on the state of your batteries. Failsafe, I leave this alone because it's set to stage 1 if you activate the switch, which is not really what you want. Don't do that. Stage 2 just falls out of the sky, and that's what you want. And that's very useful if you have a flyaway or something happens, because you want it to fall. Pid'tuning, here's the fun stuff. So for me, all I had to change, let's see, actually you can see defaults are here. I really didn't alter that much. I lowered my D gains a little bit down to 24 and 25. I left roll, pitch, and yaw exactly the same. I like them this way. It flew phenomenally well. I loved how it felt. Here's where you get the fun stuff. Feed forward transition 0. Trust me on this, 0. Because of feathered PIDs down here. You do not use feed forward with feathered PIDs, and that will basically smooth out your PIDs as you're having higher and lower stick inputs. There's a lot of math behind there that I do not understand, but the MU boost and MU boost limit that you see here take the place of feed forward in stick field. That's the way I look at it. That's not a direct explanation for it, but that's pretty much how it works. So acro trainer, don't care. Throttle boost 5, depends on the strength of your quad. GTR 349 is pretty freaking powerful, so 5 is good. Absolute control, I leave 0. Eye decay, this is one of the Emuflights, and it was you've got always have question marks over here. These are your helps. So it basically Removes excessive I-term accumulation at the end of quick stick movements. Running higher allows you to run higher I-term without experiencing bounce back or common negative side effects associated with high I-term. I left it at the default of 4. MU boost. This is the fun one. So if you do if you like non-linear boost to your stick movements, your P and I. Oh, yeah. Error seen by your P and I term. It makes the sticks feel a lot more, I don't know how to describe it other than if you bump the stick a little bit and it's a fast bump, you will get a fast boost. And if you slowly do it, it won't even boost actually, or it doesn't feel any differently. So if you like smooth, you can leave it on. And if you like fast stuff, you twitch and it gives you a kick, a little jerk. It's really good. MU boost limit just basically limits the amount. The boost, the higher you set this 30 number, it's the default, I believe, a lot lower than 30. What's the default at? Oh, it doesn't change with profiles, but it defaults lower. I think it defaults at 15. So 30 is a good spot. You can go up higher, but you can cause oscillation, so be careful with that. But on smaller quads, I've been up as high as 100. Just not on the GTR. I haven't tried anything over 30 because it gives you a little bit of a boost and then the limit just kicks it back, so you just have kind of a ramp up and a stop. Then we're getting into feather pids. I leave on I-term rotation. That one I've never noticed a difference, so I'm not a line of sight pilot. I just always leave it on. VBAT pig compensation I leave on simply because I leave it on. As your battery drains down, your pids will have to increase to keep up with that. Smart feed forward you're leaving off. I-term relax you leave off, and anti-gravity I keep it at smooth and about 8, and that keeps from having dips. Going over to rate profiles, these are just my rates. If you'll notice on this page, TPA P, I, and D are separated. And these are mathematical something or others, don't know what to call it other than basically TPA P over the breakpoint will drop your P rating down to 65% of your settings. So 65% of 50, it's 30 something. I will actually increase, and D will cut them in half. And what this does is anything over 1350, which is a little bit more than 50% throttle, about 70% really, it will basically cut your PIDs in half so that you don't have any weird high term oscillations or high throttle weirdness. I going up just keeps you stable. And P, you don't need it because your motors are pretty much kicking out what they can kick out, so it's good. These settings work really well for me. Now jumping over to filters, I left these alone and my motors came down cooler than 356 Betaflight, 357 Betaflight, 355, which I don't recommend for anybody, or any of the 4.0s. Now like I say, I have not done 4.1. But I have a 90 gyro low pass 1 cutoff, PT1, 65 and 200 PT1. I leave the IMUF off. Good. I wish I knew the ranges on these, but I don't. And I leave them alone and they work very well. So these are why Butterflight was a thing. So this is just a continuation of Butterflight, if you didn't know. So anyway, filters, I leave as default. They work great. Save. Receiver, this is just your receiver. I do like the filtered RC smoothing. It just works better for me. And I smooth every channel. Auto cutoff and auto derivative cutoff. And biquads for both of those. No big deal there. You might want an RC deadband. Some people like 2. I actually don't. I like very twitchy stick feel. I like it a lot. If you do have S-Bus, that's where you can enable your RSSI channel. This is just like Betaflight, by the way, for the most part. And here, since you have your gyro, or your accelerometer enabled, you will want to enable your horizon and angle mode. Because if you ever run out of range and your your VTX goes to pure static, you can just flip a switch and level out and try to lower yourself down to get back into range without crashing. So anyway, that's just a nice little trick I learned the hard way. OSD, this is like Betaflight 3.5 OSD. So you have pretty much set it up whatever your preference is. You do have to go into Font Manager and upload font to get the cool Emuflight logo. But I like the font I'm using, so we're good. And just set those up as they are. Now the important thing here, once you flash, you're going to go to CLI and do get runaway. And you're going to do runaway takeoff prevention equals on. So mine is on right now because I turned it on, but default in Emuflight is off. So you just want to do set runaway takeoff prevention. That way, if your flight controller ever goes wild, instead of taking off, it will just spin for a half a second. Actually, yeah, exactly half a second. 500 milliseconds to be precise, and will just disable. And that's good. And it will only go to 25% of your throttle percentage instead of 100, which will shoot to the moon. So set runaway takeoff prevention on. It defaults to off. And if you're using iBus, you'll want to do RSSI inversion. So RSSI invert, you'll want to do set RSSI invert to on and save. That's going to kick you back out. And as always, once I go through a new setup, I just run through the tabs again, make sure everything saves, which it looks like it did. Power battery 270, 3433. Virtual. When did that happen? That's supposed to be onboard ADC. See that? I think I clicked by accident. Failsafe, we're good. Pid'tuning, these look good. I'm on profile 1. Make sure if you ever touch these, you set it to the one you're expecting, or you'll be in a lot of trouble. So yeah, especially this. If you hit rate profile 2, and you're not expecting to be in rate profile 2, you'll crash. Ask me how I know. Because I'm expecting 1416, and I end up with 667, which is the slowest stick feel ever. Receiver, we're good. Modes, adjustments, or I don't care. OSD, we're good. Alright, let's jump over to the flight. So I'm going to get this out of the way. The GTR 349 HD using the the Cadix Turtle Mark II is not the best FPV experience in the world, and part of that is due to the VTX, that's the Runcam TX200, that has a lot of static in it, no matter what channel. So it seems like on dry days, my reception's a little bit worse than normal, which goes back to why I said you might want to set your accelerometer, or not, yeah, your accelerometer to on and have a horizon and angle mode. Because at some point this thing blacks out and it drives me crazy, because I was about probably 60 feet in the air and not sure if I was going to drop on someone's car, which is a bad sign right about here. Not this one, that one was scary. So I thought, oh gee, let me try that again. Let me just see if I can just go straight to the moon and black out. That is the scariest feeling in FPV, by the way, is when you can't see where you're going and you know that there's stuff you can hit. Normally not something I do, and yes, I'm friends with all my neighbors, but I don't want to pay for the damages, though I do have insurance, so carry insurance. Anyway, all of that to say, Emuflight just flies really well, and it's tighter, much tighter, and this is with a very small amount of tuning that I was able to get prop wash down to a very manageable degree, which is not something I've been able to do with any of the Betaflight variants on this GTR 349. It's like the motors and the flight controller are amazing. They're great, but they're very sensitive. It's an overpowered quad, honestly. So for me to get it as tight as I want, I end up with oscillations, or I end up with some just not good characteristics in 356, let me just say flat out, 4.0 never worked for this quad, ever, due to the filtering. None of the variants worked except for one of a few of the RC candidates. Not even RC candidates, development builds worked. Otherwise, you ended up getting to the moon, which is why I thought, ooh, Emuflight might be straight up my alley. And I'm so glad I did, because it is phenomenal. It's really, really good. And I'm not just saying that, like I get paid nothing to say that, so it's not in my best interest to say it. But as far as how it flies, Emuflight was the first time I'd had it as tight as I wanted, along with having cool motors, no real bounce back, no real oscillations, no real prop wash to speak of. There is some, don't get me wrong, depending on the flight, and I go between a very heavy battery and a light battery without changing any PIDs, so I kind of tune to fly well on the heavier battery, and the light battery just tends to work. So that much weight difference though would mean I pretty much have to retune, but I don't. And with Emuflight I don't really have to, because it's freaking awesome. So here we are going into OSD so that you can just see a couple of the changes. Basically in PID profiles you have the options so you can do that Emu boost or feathered boost and go through all your settings. It's just like Betaflight's OSD, but I was mainly running through to make sure I still had all my settings that I was expecting. So we're going to jump out, reboot, see that nice. It's actually supposed to be an Emuflight, but it's V010. So we're back into it, and this is with the heavier battery. Like I was saying, I fly a 130 gram battery and a 60 gram battery. One of them's actually a 1500 milliamp hour, and in normal circumstances I'd have to retune, but this handles both very, very well without heating the motors on either one. Now they don't come down cold, don't get me wrong, but for the amount of abuse I give them, they come down warm, like not even hot, not uncomfortable at all, not in any risk, but they're just really good. One thing I do like about Emuflight, other than the fact you can just kind of pop up from a crash like that, but one thing I do like about it's just the stick feel. And if everything was the same as any of the Betaflight versions, but I could make the stick feel something duplicated, that's what I like about it. Just it's easy to set up, filters are good, and the sticks just feel better, much better, and it's instantly noticeable. That Emu boost at about 30 and 15 for the limit 15 to 20. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up here. I think, yeah, I'm going to wrap it up here. Like I say, GTR 349, Emuflight, they're just a great combination. And it's an easy setup, something you really should try. I do know developers on all sides are working to make this a better hobby, and they've done a phenomenal job. So if you're having difficulty with Betaflight, give Emuflight a try. Don't forget, like, subscribe, thumbs up, all that stuff. Let me know what you think, and leave a comment down below. We'll talk to you soon.